It's like I don't care about nothing, man. Yeah. Oh,
What's going on, guys? Coach Carr here. Now this video is continuing with what we learned on page 7. So now we're using the angle relationships and making it so we can actually solve problems. So certain angle relationships are congruent, certain angle relationships are supplementary. So you want to make sure you know which ones are congruent, which ones are supplementary. So I realized after the fact that I accidentally deleted how I solve for y.
What an idiot.
So I'm gonna make sure to do this real quick. So y was congruent with this angle here. So this one would also be 114. The reason is they are corresponding angles. They were both on the right side and both underneath their respective parallel line. So that's how I knew that y equaled 114 degrees. So now the x value is going to be one where we actually have to do a little bit more work to it. This one here, if I look at from here to here, they form a line. To be more specific, they form a linear pair. Now, linear pair is not on the one that you had before for angle relationships on page 7, but this correlates to what we've learned in the first unit. It also goes back to page 3 that's in here, the linear pair postulate. So knowing it's a linear pair, I know that it has to equal 180. So both of these angles together equal 180. Now, knowing that, I know that one of my angles is 114, and the other angle is going to add with it, and that one is x plus 12. So in order to solve this, I need to combine my like terms. So 114 plus 12, so 180 equals 126 plus x. Now I'm trying to get x by itself, so what I'm going to do now is subtract 126 from both sides. And when I do that, x is going to equal 54. So this one we were able to find x because we knew it was a linear pair. The one before it, we found y because it was a corresponding angle. So that's the idea of what we're trying to do with these problems. So next one I'm looking at is part C on that same page. This one here, we are trying to solve for x and figure out how to find it based on our angle relationships. Now, we do not have an angle relationship for where these are right now. That being said, what we can do is try to figure out the other places that like 54 could be. So I know like vertical angles have to be congruent. So this angle right here must be 54 degrees. I know corresponding angles. This part right here must be also 54 degrees. Vertical angles here, 54. So now I've listed all the places that I could potentially have 54 degrees. Now that I have that, it might be a little bit easier to find something. So let's say if I looked at the two inside. The two inside could be consecutive interior. Now, consecutive interior, if you look on your foldable on the page before, we're told that they are supplementary. Supplementary meaning that they have to add up to 180. So 2x plus 54 equals 180 degrees. So if I do this, first step now would be to subtract 54 from both sides, because I'm trying to get x by itself. When I do this, I get 2x equals 126. Now again, I'm trying to get x by itself, so I can't just leave it like this. I now have to divide by 2. And x equals 63. So the answer for this one would be 63. And we knew that because by moving 54 in a spot that we knew it could also be, we saw consecutive interior angles. So the next problem we're looking at is going to be page 9, number 4. This one is saying if L and M are parallel, find the measure of the smaller indicated angle and justify each answer with the appropriate angle relationship. So one of the important things from this is we're looking at the smaller indicated angle. So the smaller indicated angle would be this one here, the 4x minus 1. So in the end, we know once we find x, we're going to plug it in. Now, something else that you would want to notice is this angle got broken up over here by this second transversal. And here I have a box, which means that it's a right angle. So if I went vertical directly across from it, this too would be a right angle. And I knew that because of vertical angles. So that's going to help us in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw it without this line going through here and only have this line to make it a little bit easier to visualize. So as promised, I drew it without this angle going, or this transversal, sorry, going across. And now it's looking like this. Now if you notice, this one is underneath this parallel line, and so is this one. Now, so this could be corresponding angles. Now, corresponding angles have to be congruent. But we do want to remember that earlier I talked about how this angle got cut. So if that's the case, this one would also have to be 4x minus 1 plus 90. So if I go to set it up knowing that they are congruent, I would then have to make sure I do 16x plus 5 equals 4x minus 1 plus 90. Now again, because this one broke it up, so we have to make sure we add this part in there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you the math, and then I'll go over it. So as promised, I went ahead and solved it. So I'll go over the steps. Now, first step I did was I combined my like terms. So 1 minus 90 gave me the 89, and I just brought everything else down. I made it one step on bringing all the x's to one side and everything that doesn't have a variable to the other. So I subtracted 4x from both sides, and I subtracted 5 from both sides. This left me with 12x equals 84. Instead of ending there, I had to make sure I divided by 12 because I want to get x by itself, and when I do that, 84 divided by 12 is 7. Now, I am not yet done.
What about you guys? We ain't found shit.
Reason being is because they wanted to find the measure of the smaller indicated angle. Now, that's what I had highlighted in the beginning because it's important. So what I have to do is now plug this in to the equation of the smaller angle. So 4x minus 1. But instead of x, now I have a 7. So 4 times 7 minus 1. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 minus 1 is 27. So in this case, the smaller angle would be 27 degrees. So the next problem that we are looking at is number 7, part B on page 10. So this one, just like the other ones, we want to find the values of the missing variables and justify the answers with the appropriate angle relationship. So this one might look a little confusing to you. So one of the suggestions I always do, or say I should say, is to redraw it to make it look like something that you've already dealt with before. So I'm going to redraw this to show two different parallel lines with the two different transversals. So I will show you that right now. So like I promised, I redrew it so it looks more like what you've seen. You notice I scribbled this out because I do tend to write things very small, and I realized that it would be hard to see. So I scribbled it out. Now, so this one here, when I redrew it, they're right next to each other, forms a linear pair. Now, I can't solve for this one yet because this one has a y, this one has an x value. So since they have different variables, I can't combine them. So I'm going to look at my other pair that I have here. Now, you notice that they're both on the same side of the transversal, and they are inside. So they would be consecutive interior. So for this one here, we would be saying consecutive interior. And what we know about consecutive interior is that they equal 180 degrees. So in this case, if I did 120 plus x, it would have to equal 180 degrees. So in order to find x, I would then subtract 120 from both sides to get x by itself, and x would equal 60. So this here would be 60 degrees. And by finding this, it's going to help me find the next one here. Now, earlier, I told you that this forms a linear pair. So this one over here is going to be a linear pair. Now, a linear pair is similar to consecutive interior in that it has to equal 180. So I'm going to set the problem up, and then I'll go over how to solve it. So now I have set it up. What I did was I added these two together and set it equal to 180. But instead of an x, I put in the value that we found earlier, which was 60. So when I do this, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 3 into 60, which will get me 180. So now I have 3y plus 40 plus 180 minus 70 equals 180. So now I'm going to combine all my like terms. So that would be the 40 plus 180 minus 70. And that would get me 150. So now I have 3y plus 150 equals 180. Now I want to get x by itself, so what I'm going to be doing now is subtract 150 from both sides. This will get me 3y equals 30. Now I am not yet done. I want to divide each side by 3. This makes it so y is finally by itself. And y will equal 10. So this one we were able to find because it was a linear pair. The one before it was because it was consecutive interior. So that's the end of a video. Now you should hopefully have a better understanding on how to solve problems with the different angle relationships. Now for practice, the homework problems I want you to do is page 8, number 2, page 9, number 3 and 5, and then page 10, number 6, and number 7's part A and C. So make sure you do those practice so that you can be better prepared for the test. All right.